Some people don't predict your downfall because it is inevitable. They predict it because they are hoping for it. And that is a distinction most people are never bold enough to make out loud. But it needs to be said. Not every warning is wisdom. Sometimes it is disguised resentment. Sometimes the person telling you what goes up must come down is not preaching humility at all. They are trying to maintain a mental relationship with you. They are trying to make sure that you never think too highly of yourself. They are trying to make sure that fear of an unlikely tomorrow keeps you paralyzed today. Because here is what they understand, that the hope you never figure out. If you are afraid of losing what you have not yet built, you will never build it. If you are constantly managing the anxiety of a fall that has not happened, you will never fully commit to the climb. And a person who never fully commits is easier to dismiss, easier to overlook, and easier to stay comfortable around. A lot of people are emotionally invested in seeing successful people fail. Not because they care about justice, not because they have any genuine concern for the world being fair, but because the success of others forces them to confront the question they are most afraid of. Why not me? And rather than sitting with that question and doing something about it, it is far easier to wait. To watch, to quietly hope that the person ahead of them stumbles, so that the gap between them feels less like a personal failure and more like a temporary situation. Some people comfort themselves with the belief that success is temporary, because they cannot imagine creating it themselves. That belief is a defense mechanism. It is a story they tell themselves at night so that they can sleep without facing their own inaction. Not every success story ends in disaster. That is a fantasy some people need because the alternative, which is that success is possible and sustainable and available to those who work for it, is simply too uncomfortable to accept. Be careful who celebrates karma. Sometimes they are not interested in the universe restoring balance. Sometimes they are just waiting for revenge without getting their hands dirty. There is a type of person who would never confront you directly, would never compete with you openly, but will sit quietly on the sidelines and call it wisdom when your season gets difficult. They will say things like, "I knew it," and "everything comes full cycle," as if they were always watching out for the truth, when really they were just watching out for your collapse. Some people are not preparing for their own rise. They are waiting for yours to end. That is the clearest sign of where a person's energy is actually going. Not upward, not forward, sideways, watching, calculating, hoping. The prediction of your downfall often says more about them than it does about you. A person's obsession with when you will fall reveals more than their admiration ever could. It tells you what they think about at night. It tells you what they are not doing with their own time. It tells you what they secretly believe about themselves, which is that the only way the gap closes is if you drop, not if they rise. Many people call it karma when someone they envy finally struggles. But it is not karma they are celebrating. It is relief. The relief that comes from watching proof that success is fragile. Because if success is fragile, then their own stagnation is not really a choice. It is just wisdom, caution, patience. That is what they tell themselves. Some people don't want justice. They want balance through your suffering. Not a world where everyone rises. A world where no one rises too far above them. Resentment often disguises itself as wisdom, and it does so very convincingly. It wraps itself in philosophical language. It talks about pride and ego and the dangers of flying too high. But underneath all of that language is a very simple emotion. I cannot stand watching you win. Instead of asking when successful people will fall, ask how they manage to stay up there. That question is far more useful. That question produces something. Some people study failure because it makes them feel better. Others study success because it makes them better. The direction of your curiosity will determine the direction of your life. The people waiting for your downfall are usually not helping with your climb. They are not in your corner. They are not contributing to your vision. They are spectators with a preferred outcome. And the moment you understand that, you stop needing their validation and you stop fearing their predictions. Your success exposes some people's hidden resentment. The higher you climb, the more people start rooting for gravity. That is not a reason to stop climbing. That is simply information about who those people are. Use it accordingly. Stop being managed by the fear of an unlikely tomorrow. Every successful person who let that fear win gave away today in exchange for a future that never came. Act on what you have. Build on where you are. And let the people waiting for your downfall keep waiting, because you have far better things to do with your time than fall for their benefit. Save this. Share it with someone who needs to hear it.